Good day, Mike Stenhouse back with you on another segment of What's Really in Your Best Interests. And today we'll explore the recent Obama administration directive that would essentially force every public school, secondary and higher education in the country to allow transgender access to any bathroom of their choice. Um, we're not going to get into the issue per se, but let's talk about the process by which this directive was conceived and implemented. I mean, first of all, you can only view this as a threat and another assault, in my view, against the cherished American cornerstones of federalism, local governance, individual rights, and transparent government. That's also, I think, as we'll explore, another argument in favor of school choice. Regardless of how you feel about transgender access to facilities, the process by which this executive action out of Washington, D.C. Was implemented, to me, is nothing short of pure corruption. Corrupt in the rights that states and localities should be the ones to set their own local policies. In this instance, those rights of local governments and the sovereignty of local governments has been bypassed. Is this really in our best interest to have one-size-fits-all legislation or directives coming out of Washington, D.C.? Can that possibly serve the best interests of each and every of the many diverse communities we have in our state and in America? I don't think so. It's corrupt again in that it implies the heavy-handedness of it, where I think more than implies, it almost directly states that if you don't follow this federal directive, your school district could lose federal funds. I mean, that is a threat. Not only bypassing local decisions, but now we're threatening to punish localities and schools and local communities that don't see things the same way that the federal government has. This is heavy-handed, and again, we don't think this is in your best interests. It's also corrupt, as we have seen with so many other federal and Rhode Island regulations, that we have unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats setting up major policy directions and decisions without any reasonable regulatory or legislative review and approval process. Like a king, we see a directive and we are expected to follow it. Friends, this is not in our best interest, and this is not the way our American government is designed to work. It is corrupt again that we have bypassed any legitimate and rigorous, open and honest public debate on the process. Again, the federal government, because they are the elitists, like we have seen with our state government, the elitist attitude they have there, that they know better, that they know what's in our best interests. I don't think so. It's corrupt also in that, in this instance, we are assuming and acting on the belief that the perceived rights of the few should be a reason and cause to justify infringement on the rights of the many who may be uncomfortable with some of the actions that may result from this dictate. I would say that we're not talking about rights here. We are clearly, I mean, for a transgender male, born a male, to go into a ladies' bathroom, while that may make that person feel comfortable, it's certainly infringing or could infringe on the rights of some of the young ladies in that what used to be a women's bathroom. Why should the concerns of the few override the concerns of the many? And also, I have a problem with the term right. A right cannot be, or an action in this case, cannot be a right if it necessarily infringes on somebody else's right. This is why, like, healthcare insurance cannot be a right, because in order to grant that action, you have to infringe on either my money or taxpayers' money or some doctor's service. So anything that infringes on somebody else's rights or property cannot be a right in and of itself. So that's another problem we have with this mandate. So whether or not you support this federal intrusion into what we should be local decisions on such a very sensitive issue, and then when you bring in education, we bring in the Common Core debate, it's clear. I mean, everyone knows, and not everyone will agree with these federal actions into the way local school systems, local government-run educational systems are run, right? So because not everyone can agree, this yet is another argument, in my view, um, why if we're going to potentially infringe on Rhode Islanders and Americans' rights with this government-centric, government by political correctness, that we must offer school choice for those families who feel that their values and their morals are being infringed upon. I mean, without school choice, we are now essentially forcing the views of a few people up in Washington, D.C., onto every family and student on America. And without school choice, we are giving them no choice to have an alternative educational system because too many people just can't afford to move or go to private school. So if ever there was a time for school choice to empower parents with the option to escape schools that do not respect their personal values, that time is now. So to wrap up this issue, this increasing trend of arbitrary and what I think is unconstitutional government by activist and elitist executives, both at the state level and at the federal level, as often, I should say, as a direct affront to the values of the very people they claim to represent. This trend in government by fiat is very dangerous to our democracy, and it is a direct breakdown of the cornerstone of our great American democracy. For these reasons, the procedural reasons, we oppose President Obama's directive.